you die a devil, as a tree falls, so shall it lie. If you've been a dollar-grubbing, miserly creep here, you'll be a creep, and you'd make a hell out of any heaven you went to.
Labas rytas. Smagu, kad atvykote kai kas anksčiau, mes pasitikime.
Forget Kenya to Colombia, from Iraq to Korea, in slums, in schools, in prisons, and in theatres. Every day, people gather at TEDx events around the world to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. Today, you are part of a global conversation about our shared future. So what is this TEDx? On the TED conference format and ideals, but is independent and made it all possible. It's they who booked all the speakers, and the views you'll hear today are, of course, those of those speakers, and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you'll take out.
Imagine like Michael Jordan playing a game, and he jumps with the ball, going straight for the basket, and then the coach says, "Michael, what are you doing?" You know, it's like, check your responsibilities, man. There's nothing written that you can fly. Get down on the ground and drop the ball. You know? And Michael say, "Okay, fine, guys." So it's not my responsibility. So how do we identify who is accountable and who's responsible? There are two action plans. And one plan is like acting like a tenant. And the other one is acting like the owner. So let's start with the tenant. Who is the tenant? Imagine I'm renting a flat, right? And I have like 2 weeks left to the deadline, and I'm out. And I see there's a crack in the wall. It's kind of, I should fix it, but you know, it will cost money for me. So what I get? Oh, there's a fine sofa. So I grab the sofa and put it right in front of the crack. Yeah, it's not my responsibility. It's not my accountability to fix it. So nobody sees it, and my hands are clean, right? And I'm out of the way. So the first story is, it happened quite a long ago, you know, in New York, Queens, and meet this fine lady. It's Kitty Genovese. She comes after her night shift home. She parks her car, grabs her bags, and she goes straight home. And there's, on the way, she meets this fine gentleman. It's Winston Moseley, and he's the attacker. He pulls out a knife and attacks Kitty. Well, Kitty is stabbed, and she's in the shock. Adrenaline rush. Somehow she manages to get away from his grip, and she starts running and calling for help. And interesting thing that there's no reaction. Only after a few minutes, there's a one person who is saying, like, opening the door and, "Leave the girl alone, you bastard!" And Winston, of course, he's scared and he goes away, and Kitty is like dazzled, and she goes around the corner, and the man closes the door. What happens next? Winston is a smart guy. He like cruises around the block in his car, and he comes back to finish what he started. And he goes in the search, and he finds Kitty, and she's like a few feet away from a safety. Her strength ran out, and she's like lying there unconscious. The second person in this story is roommate of Kitty. She hears some noise right outside, and she looks through the window, and man, there's a kitty lying down, and someone is attacking her. So she grabs her coat and storms out of her room, but before opening the door to the yard, she stops. I'm just a girl, right? And maybe that man can attack me too. But she says, "Man, it's like, it's Kitty, it's my friend, I have to do it." And she opens the door, the attacker is gone, and there's Kitty lying unconscious. She grabs her and starts screaming and calling for help. And we have a third guy, a neighbor, who hears and sees that, and he says, "Okay, I have to help." He calls cops, he calls ambulance, and on the way to the hospital, Kitty dies. It's a shocking story, but the next fact is really shocking. When the police started the investigation, what they found out, that 37 people saw or heard the attack and chose to do nothing. One of the guy, he heard the noise, and he put the volume up on his radio receiver, just not to hear the voice, not to hear the noise outside. So what do we have? They were stuck in their responsibility, and they were acting like tenants. They chose not to see around them. They chose to be in their box. It's like, it's not my accountability, like, to go there. Why others don't help? They are the bad guys, right? I'm the good one. So if we act like tenants, nothing good might happen. But the stories, I have 2 more left, they are good ones. So the next story happens in USA, in the Fourth Center. There's a playoffs between 2 basketball teams, NBA, and there's a young girl, she has a chance to become a star. And all she has to do is just sing American anthem, right? Let's see how that goes for her.
stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we walk.
That's that. The guy's name is Mo Cheeks, and he's one of the coach of the teams. If he would look at his responsibility list, it's like, when Natalie Gilbert is stuck singing American anthem, should I help her? No. So he could act like others, like, whoa, you're stuck, whoa, and so on. But no, what he chose to be the owner. He saw the problem, and he asked a question to himself. What can I do? Is it my responsibility or accountability? And he said, man, you can change something. A simple move. Just stand up and go there and start saying the lyrics. Of course, he has no voice. You heard that, right? But that doesn't matter, no? All he did, he was saying the words, and he did not let her quit. When she lowers her mic, he says, oh, come on, just sing. Do it right. And one simple action from one simple man saved the girl. Of course, it happened in USA, and after that, it's TV shows and so on and so on. There's a question for Natalie. Would you do it again? Do you know what she said? Of course, if Mo Cheeks is around. So see, your actions can really change the world. And here's my personal story. It happened in Lithuania, in Kėdainiai, a small town. And I was on my way to training, just doing my job, doing my responsibilities and so on. And then I meet Irene. She's like aged lady. She's like 55, maybe 56 years old. She's from a small town somewhere near Panevėžys, and she's the kind of person when you're working in the sales, your sales managers don't look at you that good, It's like your age and if your results not good, so just be there and provide some results. Okay, guys, it's other but okay. So we start the training, and I see that she does not show any potential. She's calm, she's silent, and you know what? I start thinking, man, what she's doing here? Maybe someone else could take her spot and do way much better. And then after that, we should have like a small training, and I should have personal feedback sessions with the sales managers. And I think, okay, sales is over, so now the boss will give me like potential salesmen, so we could do like double visits to the clients, to the customers, and they would sell, and then I would give feedback and make them better. And what do you know? The boss comes and says, okay, Balys, you will go with Irene. And I'm like, man, I really love my job, but I love working with people who has potential and who want to open it up. And I'm a bit surprised. Okay, I'll make my first step. And then I say, Irene, where's the first customer? And then she says, you know, Balys, I had no time to make calls, to make visits, and so on. And I'm thinking like, man, I'm telling story inside myself that didn't I tell you so it will happen like that? But okay, I'm still thinking, just make that extra step you always do. And I did. I said, okay, if we can have double visits, let's have a mentoring session, one-on-one. What do you want to talk about? And she said, well, I would like to talk about my results and how could I increase them. And I think, okay, I will invest my time. And we talk with her, and I hear her story. And she's a lady who have worked in a small town, in a small, tiny shop for all her life. And now the top management team thinks that, okay, we will promote you. So in the past, the customers came to her shop, and all she had to do, just sit there and just sell the products. It's easy, right? And now, at age 55, you have to change that. You have to go to the customers. And she says, you know, it's hard because I have no knowledge, I have no experience in that. And my colleague who I'm trusting and from whom I could learn left. So I'm feeling all alone. And no, then it struck me. And if I would quit on her earlier, she would never made a change. So at that moment, I thought, okay, what can I do? I can invest my time. So we talked and talked and talked. We identified the problem. It was like her strength inside, she was lacking it. she was closed inside, and she had no strength. So we talked that she must read, she must go to the double visit, she must use her boss, her manager, just to get better and better and better. And the whole action plan was really a lot of work. And after some time, you know, when we separated, I get the message from Irene, and she says, man, it was really great conversation. I talked to you like a priest in the church, you know? And I was like, yeah, awesome, great, and so on and so on. But there was doubt inside me. I was thinking, okay, it's fine, it's fun, and so on, but what are your results? How are you managing? We had such incredible plan, and that doubt left inside my heart. I was thinking, okay, we just talked, and that's that. After some time, I meet with the managers of the Irene, and I ask occasional questions. It's like, how is Irene doing? And they say, man, I don't know what happened, but she blasted through the door. She started reading, she started asking questions, she started learning, and so on and so on. She started going to the customers, and now she's almost at the top. She hit her sales plan. She was lacking like 15% in 1 month. She did that, and she crossed the line. And I was like, wow, did she really do that? And she said, yes. When I had next meeting with Irene, she was a changed person. Because at the first training, she was sitting there calm with no opinion and so on. And she had a colleague who was so loud and talking and talking and talking. And Irene would sit there and tell nothing. But at the second training, that colleague was talking and talking. And Irene would, no, I don't think you're talking right, and so on. The person bloomed, right? So what I want to say, if she would stuck in her responsibility box, that change would never have happened. Irene took incredible step, and she said, what else can I do? What can I do for my life to change it? She had a huge plan, and she jumped right in there, and she came out swinging with incredible results. So to sum up, what I would like to say that being an owner is way much better, right? All you have to do, you just have to see the problem, you have to take accountability for it, you have to solve it, and the hardest step is to do it. Because, you know, we have all kinds of strategies in our home written on the sheets of paper, right? And when the step comes, okay, do it. And then we're like, this is not really good. I will make the next one, right? So the do it phase is really important. And make that one step at a time. And I really understand that being owner always is impossible because we will go mad, right? Imagine if you would feel responsible and accountable for everything. You couldn't sleep at nights, man. It's like hunger in the world, war, and so on, so on, so on. But what I say, it's like become 1% more often an owner. Just 1% at a time. It's like increase your owner's action 1% per month. And you will be amazed at the results. So thank you very much. And what I do wish for you, be accountable in life.
Thank you, Balys, for your inspirational talk and especially for the wish at the end. But can you break it into smaller parts? What is like smaller step? What is something, a small thing that each of us could do starting today to become more accountable in our lives?
Okay, I will give you a small example how I started accountability in my life, right? In the office, we have accountability board, and for accountability actions, we get green dots. For responsibility actions, we get the red dots. And accountability has like a plague, it spreads, right? From your job to your personal life. And then I'm standing in a shop and I see old lady there and her purse drops on the ground. And I'm like, man, oh, here you go. And it's
like green dot.
Yeah. And it's in my head, it's like green dot, green dot, green dot. You know? So start looking for those opportunities. It's like always ask yourself the simple question, what else can I do? It's like that extra mile we're always just talking about, right? So make it happen.
And reward yourself, I guess. Even if it's a small green dot.
But reward will come because after that person, you know, it's like green dot, green dot, green dot. So start giving yourself green dots and you will see how your life changes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Speaking of dots and the red dot, and the next person to come and stand on this one is Madara Žgutė. She, in the recent year, well, she's a student at the moment, but in the recent years, she spent quite a bit of time volunteering in projects based in Africa. And she went through a lot of experience, and still she's still questioning, did she become a better person? What did it give me? And she's here today to tell you more about volunteering and what good can it do for you and your life. So please warm welcome, Madara Žgutė.
So, what comes to your mind when I say the word volunteering? So you probably have an image of altruistic activities or services provided for certain communities for no financial gain. And that's more than true. But the thing is that every coin has two sides, and so does volunteering. So today I would like to reveal that other side of the volunteering that reflects not the idea of giving, but the effect of taking. So to be more specific, I will talk about volunteer travel and international volunteering experience, volunteering travel that I personally have experienced. So these two sides respectively reflect positive and negative impact. So what's wrong with volunteer travel, you ask? Let me share my experience and some trends that I've seen in order to answer this question and discuss different approaches. So in the last few years, I've engaged myself in several projects based in Kenya and Ghana. And even though these experiences based in these two countries, they were not the same. They were quite the same, actually. Yeah. But the experience in Ghana is an example that will make you understand the international volunteering and the controversy of this international volunteering better. So back in 2012, I was a 12th grade student, just wondering about the possibilities I could take after graduating, when one day an idea popped into my head: why not go to Africa to save the world? So it sounded like a totally crazy goal for me, but the more I was thinking about it, the more I was sure that this goal had to be achieved to make somebody's life better and to just look for the answers, what I wanted to do in life when I come back. So it took me more than half a year to finally find an appropriate project that was fully funded and safe. But during that time, honestly, I was not truly interested in African region itself. I did not know much about its history, economy, politics, or culture. And to be honest, there were so many stereotypes in my head, and the image of poverty, dirt, privatism, it was also clear and true, and so it seemed that I was the one who was meant to change it. So the day came, and here I was in a small town of eastern Ghana called Begoro, trying to settle in and start my volunteering practice in a school/orphanage for the following 9 months. So to be honest, the first few months were more than challenging for me, because I was totally shocked by the different mentality and different perspective of the people. So gradually I became obsessed with the idea to just improve everything what was around me, starting like how the education system was working, or I don't know how the children were treated. So the day came, and here it is, the orphanage, the place where I was volunteering. So arguing with the principal about the lack of facilities provided for children and the need of improvement was a daily task for me, and also for other volunteers. So we were questioning, and we were asking to change so many things, but it seemed that nobody was listening to us. So what did I do? So every morning I just woke up at 6 o'clock, and I started preparing the small ones for the school where I was teaching music and helping with other subjects. After the school finished, I had piano lessons with the older ones, and duties like washing, supervising, cleaning were also included in my daily list. But the thing is that despite of the fact that I sometimes felt physically and mentally exhausted, I still felt that I was not doing enough. So nobody had ever told me how much effort I should be putting in my work. And of course, the locals were happy that we volunteers, we reduced the amount of work that normally had to be done by the local people, but nobody seemed to really appreciate our work or listen to our complaints and ideas. So then gradually, I started to doubt my involvement in the community. So while my friends were thinking that I was the one who would rewrite the history of Africa, and my grandparents and grandmothers, they were like worried with the thought of me starving from hunger and never coming back. And off topic, I gained 9 kilos. So then I realized that my all good intentions and plans to change the world just were about to fail. So this organization that I was part of seemed to accept as many volunteers at a time as possible, and it did not matter if somebody came for 1 week, 2 weeks, or a month. So there were times when we were even 10 volunteers, and it did not matter that not everyone had the possibility to get involved in the project because we were just too many. So we started asking ourselves, what's the point? What was the point of accepting this many volunteers if there's not so many things that we can do? So it soon became clear that it's all because of the funds the organization was receiving from the Western world, but we did not see any significant changes after the organization got paid loads of money. So this organization was established for financial gain and not for the needs of the orphans, who even though seemed so pure and honest, they were traumatized and isolated at the same time because of their fate of not having normal families. So one day, a young woman came to the orphanage. She was carrying a bag full of clothes and shoes, and she went to a 5-year-old girl. She greeted her, kissed her, talked for a while, and then she left. And the small girl, she was crying all day after saying goodbye. So I was surprised to see how the situation had evolved and went to the staff members to ask, who was that woman? So they replied that it was her mom. But aren't they real orphans? Like, why are they here then? So after a moment of not saying a word, staff members replied that children chose to come and live in the orphanage by themselves. I mean, a 5-year-old choosing to live separately from her parents. So something was not clear to me, and I wanted to find out what was really going on. So let me share some facts with you. So orphanage tourism is one of the most popular voluntary sectors. In the last few years, there have been several investigations that show that orphanage tourism is a very questionable way of serving local communities in the developing world. So only 1/4 of the children who are living in the orphanage had no living parents. Others were mostly coming from poor or young families and were approached by the owner of the organization to boost the number of the donations and funds coming from the Western world. So many institutions like this separate the children from their families. And so also we can see it that volunteer, if we just Google it, so volunteer orphanage work in Africa, we can see that there are more than 500,000 of possibilities and opportunities and choices. So the thing is that the trend is really growing. The volunteer tourism in the orphanages, it's really growing trend. So without me and another few long-term volunteers, there were also a bunch of short-term volunteers. But we were all trying to make the most of our time, combining voluntary service with exploring the region and traveling. So yeah, despite of altruistic intentions, we were trying to interact with local people, just traveling around or just like relaxing at the beach on the weekends. And it could seem, from this point of view, it could seem like a really good way to just run away from the frustrations that the project had brought. But when we came back, the children seemed so happy, and they were hoping that we would never leave the place anymore. They were often asking us, would we ever come back if we leave? So there is one more thing to add. Volunteering and volunteerism would not exist without someone's suffering. So how the child feels seeing these volunteers coming and going. Every time one of the volunteer leaves, a child feels abandoned all over again. And as we disappear, we leave another scar, right? So there is a Zambian saying, it takes a whole village to raise a child. So before coming, I was surprised about the fact that orphanages do exist in Africa, but I was still thinking that these children who live in these orphanages were no doubt real orphans, and they were protected by the whole community from all the dangers that could be faced during childhood. Yeah, so before we are going to help, we have to question ourselves. So we have to think critically and realize that. So the organizations. So we have to learn before we're going to help. So yeah, sorry, and there are some organizations that are driven by profit, and some of them do accept volunteers without any skills that are relevant when coping with children, with people with disabilities or special needs. For example, me, an 18-year-old student, I did not have any pedagogical skills, I did not have any knowledge about how the education system was working in Ghana, but still, I was allowed to teach on my first day of school. So another issue I was facing, cultural differences. So not knowing anything about the different environment, about different perspectives and social heritage of the local community, a volunteer, he usually tries to adapt his own way of living to a society that sees everything in a different light. So during my service, I had an opportunity to meet an older volunteer couple. And even though they were good as heart, they were also facing the same differences, the same issues of cultural differences as I did in the beginning. But the difference was that they had money and they had power. But gradually, the older man, he replaced the local principal and started to lead the institution. So we volunteers and other staff members, we were controlled and we were being assigned tasks. So, of course, they were also doing some great things, like they were installing electricity, but they were not only they did not only want to improve the living conditions, they also wanted to change the cultural customs. The thing is that I did not see the point of changing these things anymore. And, but I want to show you it's not working. Okay, so I don't know if you've seen this, there's this scene from the movie, and I just wanted to show you there was like a small part of it. Okay, so they were always asking us and questioning us, like that we were not ready for this kind of project, and we were lacking experience. So the thing is that volunteering knows no age limit. But they were right about one thing, that we did not have enough skills to interact with children, but as a matter of fact, neither did they. So there was a scene of movie from A Problem Child, there's a 90s comedy movie, and that scene shows, so there is a boy called Junior, and he lives in this Catholic orphanage, and one day young family appears and they decide to adopt this child. And there is a scene in the movie where the boy leaves the orphanage and all the nuns just become so overwhelmed and relieved because he's left the orphanage. So it's hilarious, and so was the moment when the couple left. So all the struggles and all the effort they were putting in the project, they became useless. And we and other staff members, we finally felt relieved and free from all the demands and all the control. So flexible attitude and open-minded an open-minded attitude as well, and international communication come together with effectiveness and gratitude. So I can't put all the blame on this specific organization because it's more complex, and it also involves the organizations coming from the Western world. And the problem is that these organizations, they do not know enough about the environment, about the culture of the organizations. So again, the conflict emerges. So I was told that there would be only 10 children, but then when I came, there were 40, again, excluding 100 who were coming to school every day. And again, I was told that I would have a month to think about the possibilities. How could I get involved in the whole project? But as I mentioned before, I was already teaching on my first day of school. So it's all because we have these different kind of perspectives and different worldviews, and we lack knowledge. We lack knowledge, and we lack respect. And it's like a never-ending cycle that produces all these kind of volunteering organizations and volunteering projects that just do not function as they should. So before we give, we have to think critically and take steps to improve ourselves before we make a positive contribution to the wider world. So we have to be willing to interact with local people, and we have to be willing to change ourselves. We have to get to know customs and environment and history, and we have to devote more time than only a few weeks in order to make a positive contribution and positive impact to the wider world. And of course, we also have to ask ourselves, what kind of transferable skills do we have to offer? So who's the one giving? So we were always speaking English with the children, therefore they could improve their English language skills. Some of them learned how to play piano, or some of them learned things like knitting and just like washing their clothes properly. But then we left, another volunteers came, and it just all started all over again. Before we give, we have to think about the possibilities. How can we improve ourselves? And we have to interact with local people and be willing to change not only the community we are surrounded by, but we also have to improve ourselves. So I'm definitely not trying to scare you off from volunteering or from volunteering service, international volunteering. It's simply we have to examine the consequences for the people we strive to help before we engage ourselves in the voluntary services, because it often could turn out that we are solving only our own consciousness. So just let's be driven by our empathy and not with our sympathy, and just let's learn. Let's be ready to learn. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this, I must say, really powerful talk. And that's something I will remember for sure. And there seems to be a lot of misuse of, for example, volunteering and other kind of problems. Where does it come from? How come there's so much fraud and, I don't know, being so double-faced from the organizations? Where does it coming from?
I think it's again because of the miscommunication about this significant portion of miscommunication between the communities, between the different cultures. So as I said, my organization, for example, they did not communicate with the organization in Ghana, so they did not know enough about that organization, and neither did I. So when I went there, I was so confused, and I was questioning myself about so many things. So that's why I came there, and I was shocked by so many things because I was not accordingly prepared for that. I was not assigned for that role. So,
And connecting with the first presentation, there seems to be a zero level of accountability from the organizations, but you seem to prosper with an amazing amount of accountability. Where do you think this is coming from you? Why do you feel the need to go somewhere and fix the problems when you can just simply, close your eyes?
I think it's all because you're also questioning yourself, but you just don't know that it's all because of you. You want to see yourself in that kind of place, and you want to look for the answers. So that was also me, because before I went, I thought I'm the only one and I will do it, and that's for sure. But when I went there, I realized that I'm the one who had to change my perspective and not the local people that I was a part of. So yeah, it's really hard thing to do, and actually, but I'm happy that I devoted more time to be there, not only like few weeks to realize, because there were some volunteers who came for a few weeks and they were just traveling around and they did not see any problems, nothing. They were just happy with the things that they were. So
Would you do again something like that?
International volunteering, actually, I'm not sure about that, because I really have to question everything. You have to know so many things about the organization, and how can you improve that kind of things that they're going. So I don't know. I would have to think about that, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Warm applause and thank you very much. And it's a good thing to remember. Accountability in itself is good, but always question the things. And it reminds me of a joke I saw on the 1st of April this year. And it said like a meme, the 1st of April, the only day in the year when people actually question the things we read in the media. So that's a thing to remember, like we should question everything around us. Okay, one more speaker, last speaker in the first session. How are you feeling? Awesome. Okay, try again. How are you feeling? Alive. That's good. That's good. Our last speaker in the first session, his name is Lukas Macijauskas, and he's a professional investment manager with a strong scientific background and futuristic mindset. He's a co-founder of investment management company Synergy Finance, and he's a delegate of non-standard investment management techniques, and his dissertation last year was selected as one of the best in the country. And he's here to discuss with you whether an average monkey could beat the wolf of Wall Street. Please welcome Mr. Lukas.
What do you think? How many investors there are in the world? And before you try to reach your Googling device, it might be a simpler answer. Before looking for how many there are opened investment accounts, how many registered market participants there are, the answer might be really simple. For example, you. Without any serious money involved, you came here, you invested your time. In exchange for looking for potential gain of knowledge and potential experience. So you made your investment decision. And the same goes with all other people around. Whenever you make decision, usually it's an investment decision. So how many types there are of investors? And I can deduce from their various possibilities and categories to only two types of investors. First type is Gordon Gekko type. You know this character from the famous movie Wall Street with the very famous quote, "Greed is good." And there is another type, this random guy with the famous saying, "Who took my cheese? Where's my money? What's going on?" So first type is a wolf, and the second is a monkey. Well, I have a question for you. How many of you consider themselves as a wolf with greed is good? And how many of you are monkeys? Raise your hand. Okay, majority. So, what's the difference? What's the difference between those two types of investors? Well, first of all, wolf tries to beat the market by looking for better than average companies, by better than average investments, while monkey is only looking for, well, if I beat inflation, that's a good start. So wolf also aims for big shots. He's looking for next Amazon, next Google, next Apple, such type of companies, while monkey tries to avoid big losses. Stay out of the trouble. So Wolf is always up to date. This type of investors is always searching, browsing, and he's subscribed to any news feed and financial market news feeds that's possible. While the monkey, to be frank, has no idea what's going on. And Wolf is always trying to prove his investments with some strategy, while monkey, well, invests periodically, every month, every quarter, simple as that. So, is it advantage or not to be a wolf? And what are the real advantages and the solutions? So, seeking to beat the market, the solution in this situation is you have to correctly predict future macro events. The next economic shift, the next sector that can emerge from nowhere, like biotechnology or something. And aiming for big shots, it means that you have to correctly predict future micro events, like from this potential sector, like biotechnology, IT, or robotics, or space exploration, I don't know. You have to be specific and pick particular company. So you have to correctly predict micro event. Always being up to date, you have to control all the possible information that must be useful or can be useful in your investment decisions. And here I can a little bit elaborate on this topic. Well, knowledge and experience usually are mixed in one category. And if you're an investor, it looks like with time you are getting better and better. It's logical. If you're, for example, a heart surgeon and your job is make surgeries, when you start after doctoral studies, well, you're a rookie, you're a newbie. You have some theoretical news, but the knife in your hand still is shaking wildly. But after 20 or 30 years, you're an expert. And just by looking at the patient, you have the survival rate. So the same should be with investment, right? Every investment decision is like a surgery. So you're making surgeries as a surgeon, and like investor, you're making investment decisions. From bad decisions, you can make some conclusions and be better in the future. It looks like it, right? So having proven strategy means that there's some backtest involved, some algorithm. Maybe you read about it in a book about the most successful investor in the world, or in the galaxy, I don't know, and you think that if it worked in the past, it predicts better on average future results. So there is a common denominator in this situation, predicting the future. And how easy it is to predict the future? It's a simple question. How easy? Well, the answer is not easy. And in my opinion, it's almost impossible. And I can back my opinion with research. What we found that by looking in various and vast numbers of research, that there's a paradox. Not the forecasts tend to predict the future, but actual data predicts how the forecaster will be making their forecasts. You get the idea? If you're like a weather forecaster, your forecast will be like this. Oh, it started raining. Prepare an umbrella. In investment world, it looks like a nonsense, I guess, because you are already made your decisions. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard making those predictions? Because the world is full of randomness. From the childhood, we are prepared and training to beat the randomness, but it's still here. It's right here at the moment. Some of you are here because of the pure random chance, I guess. And some examples from the stock market, from the recent events. You probably know the Volkswagen. It's Germany, right? So, das Auto. And after diesel exhaust problem, the stock price of this company fell about 40% just in 2 weeks. So the stock market was incorrect about its value of 40%. Can you imagine that? You can pick any country, but not Germany. And it caught analysts unprepared, completely out of the dark. And another example is Leicester City Football Club winning the championship, the Premier League. Before the championship, the odds were that it will win the championship, some in the area of 1 to 5,000. To put it in perspective, that Justin Bieber or Kim Kardashian will be elected the next president of the United States is around 1 to 2,000, the probability. So 2.5 more likely than this event, but it happened. And here we are talking about the closed-end system. We already know the all possible outcomes, who can win. The number of teams are finite. And Titanic, before it sank, it was unbeatable. Engineers were ready to sacrifice their hands, legs, because, well, there's a even interesting quotation that not even God himself could sink the ship. But it took one iceberg to make the job. Completely out of the dark. And there are many other things. There are processes that we cannot control or even we cannot understand yet. Some 66 million years ago, there was a different story in the planet Earth. Dinosaurs were the dominant species, right? Right now, after one asteroid, the game is changed, and we are the dominant species. But what really strikes me the most, I guess, is from David Orell's another TEDx speech, when he said that, well, there is no known equation or law that could correctly describe the formation of the cloud. So we want to predict the next best company in the 5 or 10 years, but we cannot predict the cloud of tomorrow. It's madness, right? And another thing is a human factor. And the human factor is a really interesting one. There's a common thinking in the classical economic theory that there's a homo economicus concept. Market participants should be rational and always be willing and searching for maximum profit while trying to minimize the risk. But is it true, actually? It's not. And Kahneman and Tversky found out that the way you present the situation for the same situation can lead to different answers from various participants, just by how you ask. We are irrational. And another thing that depicts that how are we irrational is this social networks explosion. Sometimes we invest so much time in reading or writing one simple comment on Facebook that from the economical sense point of view, it's really irrational. So the concept of beating the market goes against the odds. Because randomness plays a very huge role, and it's everywhere, all day long. Efficient future forecasting or modeling is impossible. Thus, stock picking does not give you any additional value, but that's how it works in the majority of investment funds in the world. They are predicting the future. And what we see from the research is that only about 40% of the time, investment managers over the calendar year can beat the simple, broadly diversified index, like S&P 500, where it's all countries, all indexes, all stocks, like Apple, Samsung, Facebook, Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, all of them. The good, average, and not so good. It's impossible, almost impossible to reach this goal. And in the long run, odds are even getting lower. When you look at it, those numbers really are striking. The probability that you will outperform your index or the mutual fund can outperform the simple, broadly diversified index over the long run is getting lower exponentially. It drops exponentially. For example, probability that mutual fund manager or mutual fund will outperform its index over the 10 years period is somewhere around 9%. And the probability or the chance that investment manager will outperform the index over the 25 years period drops to like something around 5%. So only 5 out of 100 will outperform their market. Isn't it strange? I think it's natural. So, how monkey can beat the wolf of Wall Street? It's really simple. Be a monkey. Mimic the market. Don't try to explore illusional inefficiencies. Don't try to chase the one lucky shot. Diversify as hell. Buy as much as you can. As many countries, as many sectors, as many stocks as you can. And invest in the success of the whole world, not one lucky shot. Don't try to chase the illusion. Enjoy your life, maybe. There's more interesting stuff to do than to just look at your screen and, well, Apple released new eye helmet. That's good. I wonder how it will look in eye helmet number 3. So this is really, really simple. Just diversify, buy, hold, and forget. And if you manage to do just that, there's very high statistical chance and probability that in the long run, by simply buying and holding broadly diversified stock market index, you will outperform the majority of professional stock managers, professional investment managers, and analysts. So be explorer, not a hunter. That is how you can beat the wolf of Wall Street. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you. I checked your biography again just to make sure but it does say you are an investment manager, right?
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. For those who are investing, for you or not, if it's so difficult and impossible to predict the future, why so many people try to do it then?
I believe Gordon Gekko has the answer. Because greed is good. And people are always trying to look for the best, for better. It's in our nature, I guess, to be homo optimistus, homo maximus. So that's in our nature, I guess. But
okay. I guess my second question was how to beat the wolf of Wall Street if you're a monkey, because nobody wants to be a monkey, but I guess you said, yeah, buy, hold, and diversify. I guess. Thank you very much, and good luck with the investing. Whew. How are you feeling? Awesome. We had our first 3 speakers. We have some gifts for you, so do not run away. But before we go into the break, we have one more virtual speaker that will appear on the screen, who's an entrepreneur. He is Derek Stevens, and for his new project, Much Work. Those of you who like hashtags, you will enjoy the name of his project, Much Work. And he wants to, lessen the burden of creative people. So let's see and hear what he has to say.
So imagine you're standing on a street anywhere in America, and a Japanese man comes up to you and says, excuse me, what is the name of this block? And you say, I'm sorry, well, this is Oak Street, that's Elm Street, this is 26th, that's 27th. He says, okay, but what is the name of that block? You say, well, blocks don't have names. Streets have names. Blocks are just the unnamed spaces in between streets. He leaves a little confused and disappointed. So now imagine you're standing on a street anywhere in Japan. You turn to a person next to you and say, excuse me, what is the name of this street? And they say, oh, well, that's block 17 and this is block 16. And you say, okay, but what is the name of this street? And they say, well, streets don't have names. Blocks have names. Just look at Google Maps here. There's block 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. All of these blocks have names. and the streets are just the unnamed spaces in between the blocks. And you say, okay, then how do you know your home address? I said, well, easy, this is District 8, there's block 17, house number 1. They say, okay, but walking around the neighborhood, I noticed that the house numbers don't go in order. He said, of course they do. They go in the order in which they were built. The first house ever built on a block is house number 1. The second house ever built is house number 2. Third is house number 3. It's easy, it's obvious. So I love that sometimes we need to go to the opposite side of the world to realize assumptions we didn't even know we had, and realize that the opposite of them may also be true. So for example, there are doctors in China who believe that it's their job to keep you healthy. So any month you are healthy, you pay them. And when you're sick, you don't have to pay them because they failed at their job. They get rich when you're healthy, not sick. In most music, we think of the 1 as the downbeat, the beginning of the musical phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4. But in West African music, the 1 is thought of as the end of the phrase, like the period at the end of a sentence. So you can hear it not just in the phrasing, but the way they count off their music. 2, 3, 4, 1. And this map is also accurate. There's a saying that whatever true thing you can say about India, the opposite is also true. So let's never forget, whether at TED or anywhere else, that whatever brilliant ideas you have or hear, that the opposite may also be true. Domo arigatou gozaimashita.
Yeah, and that brings our first session to an end. We are very good with timing. Did not run away just yet. I know everyone is like, yeah, coffee. Hold on. Let's recap shortly. So we met 3 amazing people this morning. We heard Balys. What did Balys talk about? Who remembers? Accountability, yes. What else do you remember? How will it change your attitude as of today? Green dots, yeah, green dots, red dots, awesome. We also met Madara. What did Madara tell about? And what are you taking home from the speech? Plenty of different things. Very good. Keep them, cherish them. And we also just heard Lukas. What did Lukas talk about? Be a monkey. Be a monkey. Or greed is good, or be a monkey. What are you taking home from the speech? Be a monkey, okay. So, green dots, be a monkey, and Africa. And volunteering. Okay, so that's our first session. We have much more to come. But one very important thing. You know, usually you come to a conference or to an event or even a lecture with a break in the middle, and you somehow, you wander into the empty room and you say, this is going to be my seat. And for those of you who ever saw, do you know stand-up comedian Eddie Izzard, maybe? Yeah, maybe you've seen the, stand-up comedy about flags, how to conquer the world, how to build an empire. You go and say, you stick a flag and you say, this belongs to Britain. So somehow people come in and say, this is going to be my chair for the whole, for the rest of my life. But not today, okay? So one important task. As soon as you come back after the break, forget which chair you chose before and go through the process again. Look for the nicest, most comfortable chair you will choose, okay? So don't leave the stuff laying where you are sitting now. So you have the responsibility to sit somewhere else, and preferably to a person, hold on. Preferably to a person who you do not know yet. Sounds good? Can you do that? Yeah, okay. Comfort zone, outside the box, yeah? Can you do it? Yeah. Awesome. Just to let you know, there's plenty of chairs here in the front, okay? One more moment, okay? So we'll have the coffee break. It's upstairs on the first floor. The coffee and the food, they said, is on the second floor. So for those who are aiming high, we'll also find a little bit of food as well. Coming back, as soon as you hear the gong, run back, okay? Make sure your time buddy is somewhere around, running down with you. And please, during the break, be active. During all the breaks today, be active. Get to know people, talk to people, make connections, meaningful connections. And go outside today. During the coffee break, we'll have a couple of amazing people. It's Martina Stonys and Eglė Regelskis, really great dancers who will show you some Lindy Hop moves. Yeah, let's try that, okay? So when are we coming back? Check the schedule. Yeah, so we're starting 11:45 sharp, and please enjoy the break. Thank you.
control. And when my days are done, I won't forget we went higher than the sun. You lift up my heart and soul till I get back control.
Feels like home to me when I'm by your side. Feels like home to me. Won't you let me inside? Baby, if we try, love won't die. You feel like home to me. You feel like home to me. You feel like home to me. You feel like home to me.
Okay, so who of you completed the responsibility to change the seat? I haven't, so... So Eva moved gradually, a gradual shift. Did someone like move to the opposite side, far away? Okay, do you know the person next to you? No? Okay, so let's do it. Remember in the beginning? Introduce yourself to the people nearby and tell them what is your favorite dance, for example, okay? 20 seconds. Okay, okay. Okay, come back. Look at me, look at me. Okay, so how was the break? Did you enjoy the dances? Yeah, well, did you have something to eat or to drink? Yeah, you feel like, happy and content, yes? Yes, are you ready for some new things to encounter? Yeah, okay, keep those heads and minds open. And we shall begin this session with some wisdom from the past again. A short TED Talk from the founder of the legendary design firm IDEO. David Kelly built the company that created many icons of digital generation. That is the first mouse, the first Treo, which is a Palm computer, the thumbs up and thumbs down button, just to name a few. But what matters even more to him is unlocking the creative potential of people and organizations so they can innovate routinely. So how to build confidence to create? Let's have a look.
I wanted to talk to you today about creative confidence. I'm going to start way back in the 3rd grade at Oakdale School in Barberton, Ohio. I remember one day my best friend Brian was working on a project. He was making a horse out of the clay that our teacher kept under the sink. And at one point, one of the girls that was sitting at his table, seeing what he was doing, leaned over and said to him, "That's terrible. That doesn't look anything like a horse." Right? And Brian's shoulders sank, and he wadded up the clay horse and he threw it back in the bin. I kind of never saw Brian do a project like that ever again. And I wonder how often that happens, It seems like when I tell that story of Brian to my class, you see, a lot of them want to come up after class and tell me about their similar experience, how a teacher shut them down or how a student was particularly cruel to them. And they some kind of opt out of thinking of themselves as creative at that point, right? And I see that opting out that happens in childhood, and it moves in and becomes more ingrained even by the time you get to adult life. So we see a lot of this, When we have a workshop or we have clients in to work with us side by side, eventually we get to the point in the process it's kind of fuzzy or unconventional. And eventually these big shot executives whip out their BlackBerries and they say they have to make really important phone calls and they head for the exits. And they're just so uncomfortable. When we track them down and ask them what's going on, they say something like, "I'm just not the creative type." But we know that's not true. If they stick with the process, if they stick with it, they end up doing amazing things. And they surprise themselves just how innovative they and their teams really are. So I've been looking at this kind of fear of judgment that we have, that you don't do things, you're afraid you're going to be judged. If you don't, say the right creative thing, you're going to be judged. And I had a major breakthrough when I met the psychologist Albert Bandura. I don't know if you know Albert Bandura, but if you go to Wikipedia, it says that he's the 4th most important psychologist in history, like Freud, Skinner, somebody in Bandura. Bandura is 86 and he still works at Stanford. He's just a lovely guy. And so I went to see him because he's just worked on phobias for a long time, which I'm very interested in. He had developed this way, this kind of methodology that ended up curing people in a very short amount of time. Like in 4 hours, he had a huge cure rate of people who had phobias. And we talked about snakes. I don't know why we talked about snakes. We talked about snakes and fear of snakes as a phobia. And it was really enjoyable, really interesting. He told me that he'd invite the test subject in, and he'd say, you know, there's a snake in the next room, and we're going to go in there. And to which he reported that most of them replied, hell no, I'm not going in there. Certainly if there's a snake in there. But Bandura has a kind of a step-by-step process that was super successful. So he'd take people to this like two-way mirror looking into the room where the snake was. And he'd get them comfortable with that. And then through a series of steps, he'd move them, and they'd be standing in the doorway with the door open, and they'd be looking in there, and he'd get them comfortable with that. And then many more steps later, kind of baby steps, they'd be in the room, they'd have like a leather glove, like a welder's glove on, and they'd eventually touch the snake. And when they touched the snake, everything was fine. They were cured. In fact, everything was better than fine. These people who had lifelong fears of snakes were saying things like, look how beautiful that snake is. And they were holding it in their laps. Right? Bandura calls this process guided mastery. I love that term, guided mastery. Right? And something else happened. These people who went through the process and touched the snake ended up having less anxiety about other things in their lives. Right? They tried harder, they persevered longer, and they were more resilient in the face of failure. Right? They just gained a new confidence. And Bandura calls that confidence self-efficacy. Right? The sense that you can change the world and that you can attain what you set out to do. Well, meeting Bandura was really cathartic for me because I realized that this, famous scientist had documented and scientifically validated something that we've seen happen over, for the last 30 years, that we could take people who had the fear that they weren't creative, and we could take them through a series of steps, kind of like a series of small successes, and they turned kind of fear into familiarity. And they surprised themselves. The transformation is amazing. We see at the D School now all the time, people from all different kinds of disciplines, they think of themselves as only analytical. And they come in and they go through the process, our process, they build confidence, and now they think of themselves differently. And they're totally emotionally excited about the fact that they walk around thinking of themselves as a creative person. Right? So I thought one of the things I'd do today is take you through, and show you what this journey looks like. To me, that journey looks like Doug Dietz. Doug Dietz is a technical person. He designs medical imaging equipment, large medical imaging equipment. He's worked for GE, and he's had a fantastic MRI machines in use. When he saw a young family, and this little girl, and that little girl was crying and was terrified. And Doug was really disappointed to learn that nearly 80% of the pediatric patients in this hospital had to be sedated in order to deal with this MRI machine. Right? And this was really disappointing to Doug because before this time, he was proud of what he did. He was saving lives with this machine. But it really hurt him to see the fear that this machine caused in kids. About that time, he was at the D School at Stanford taking classes. He was learning about our process, about design thinking, about empathy, about iterative prototyping. And he would take this new knowledge and do something quite extraordinary. He would redesign the entire experience of being scanned. And this is what he came up with. He turned it into an adventure for the kids. He painted the walls and he painted the machine, and he got the operators retrained by people who know kids, like, children's museum people. And now, so when the kid comes, it's an experience. And they talk to him about the noise and the movement of the ship. And when they come, they say, okay, you're going to go into the pirate ship, but be very still because we don't want the pirates to find you. Right? And the results were super dramatic. right? So from something like 80% of the kids needing to be sedated to something like 10% of the kids needing to be sedated. And the hospital and GE were happy too, because you didn't have to call the anesthesiologist all the time, they could put more kids through the machine in a day. So the quantitative results were great. But Doug's results that he cared about were much more qualitative. He was with one of the mothers waiting for her child to come out of the scan, and when the little girl came out of her scan, she ran up to her mother and said, "Mommy, can we come back tomorrow?" Right? And so I've heard Doug tell the story many times of his personal transformation and the
Well, apparently, turn off the screen, turn off the screen. Pretend everything is according to the script. So apparently even the people from the past who are recorded, even they forget the lines, you see? Oh my God. Okay, so what did you manage to learn? I am not sure if we're gonna finish the video or if we're gonna stop there, but do you feel like you wanna finish the video? Yeah, do you remember, he was talking about the scan machine and everything, so what have you learned so far? Yeah, be creative. Okay, where did it stop exactly? At what were the last words? I want to. As I said in the beginning, we need to pray for the universe to make everything happen perfectly. Someone of you was not praying enough, but nonetheless, we shall try to find it. I see the person here, which is funny, and he's like jumping to the snakes, and now. Maybe that's enough.
Bandura has a kind of a step-by-step process that was super successful. So he'd take people to this like two-way mirror looking into
We heard
the room
about
where
this,
the
a little
snake
fast
was.
forward if you may.
And he'd get them comfortable with that.
Pavarykite
And then
prieki.
through a series of steps, he'd move them, and they'd be standing in the doorway with the door
Porą
open,
minučių
and
į priekį.
they'd be looking in there, and he'd get them comfortable
Maybe
with that.
not.
And then many
Shut
more
this old
steps
person
later,
down. It's okay.
kind of baby steps. They'd be in the room. They'd have like a leather glove, like
Shut
a
this
wellness
person
glove
down.
on.
Yeah, it's
and
enough.
they'd
Probably you know
eventually
the end
touch
of
the
a
snake.
story.
And when they touched
And
the
everyone
snake,
lived happily ever
everything was fine.
after. It's
They
the
were
usual
cured.
story.
In
So
fact,
warm
everything
applause
was
to
better
this
than
perfect
fine.
professor.
These people who had
Okay.
lifelong fears of snakes were saying
So
things like,
shut down the professor now, and let's, Now we are back to reality. As I said in the morning, let's enjoy the reality. Sometimes it works better. So on to our second session. We will have another 3 extraordinary speakers lined up already for you. And the first one is going to, and well, let's find out what the risk jello is, okay? Can I come now? Yes, please. Okay.
Universe, where are you? So we begin, yes? And now we begin. So today, will I tell you the story? Okay, so today I will tell you a story about a wolf that was chasing me for 38 days. And I will tell you the story about the jello that is pretty tasty, and you guessed it right, the wolf eats the jello in the end. I'm a facilitator. This means that I work with people and help them to cross boundaries. I help them to talk to each other and find common solutions, common pages, and to find new strategies to work together. I used to work in the education field with principals, pupils, parents, and teachers in order to create new paradigms of learning in schools. I worked with actors, stand-uppers, various performers, and helped them to be better and more creative by connecting better to their peers. I worked with CEOs and managers and helped them to develop new strategies, new company cultures, and also worked with teenage inmates who, due to the lack of emotion expressions, committed crimes eventually. We all do have something in common with them, and that's a little pinch of fear, the one that we always carry with ourselves when we want to make a final decision to act. And this is what I will define later as the risk jello. The second part of my life is obviously nature. And it all started when I was 14, I think. I started attending survival school. And a few years later, I was capable of getting anywhere in the map during the nighttime, cold, wet, and with a huge backpack on my back. Later, I went to the voluntary military service, and my skills expanded. And after that, I just continued walking with friends, alone, and just spending time in nature. Nature, for me, is a very good teacher. You cannot predict nature. You cannot say to that teacher, oh no, I'm not going to do this or that. You cannot talk out your way out of the situation. You have to act. And sometimes the nature pushes you to act better and to do more than you think that you are capable of. So, with this note, this winter I decided to walk around Lithuania. I didn't manage to walk the entire distance. Eventually I had to end my journey. But 900 kilometers, solo hike, winter, with the best friend, 30 kilos backpack, that was pretty cool. But this journey started as one thing, as a feeling. I remember that it just appeared that I have to do this. I have to do something daring and something impressive for myself. And I knew that this was a hike. I knew that this was the nature. I wanted to be wild for some time. And I started thinking about that. But it's totally illogical. It's winter, it's cold. You have to get out of your work. You should better go to Egypt or somewhere else for a warm vacation. Where are you going? What are you doing? But I stick with the feeling because I trust my guts. And I thought that this will lead me somewhere. Eventually, when I was going to the start point, I wrote into my notebook one question. Who days of... And I started to be afraid of wolves. Let me introduce you to the Andrew. He will be the hero of the talk. And Andrew is a normal person who is living his life. And, well, he has everything he needs. He has family, he has a significant one, job, education, and he can do anything he wants. But at some point in his life, he might ask himself one question. Will I be happy in 5 years' time from now if nothing changes? Will I be happy if I don't dare to take action, to stand up in the meeting and say what I really think, to share my ideas that might shift the whole company's direction, to admit that I do not know something in order to learn and to create better work environment? In life, we tend to think about boxes. We think that, oh, I'm in a box and I have to crawl out of it. But there's no better limiting belief to have than to think that you do have a box. There are no boxes, there are no ceilings, there is nothing that can limit you. And the only thing that I can think of is the jello, the risk jello, the one that is sticky, the one that is very hard to go through, and the one that you have to eat through your life. To illustrate that, there he is in the jello. And this jello is, well, pretty not unusual. It has peas in it. Who eats the peas and the jello together, right? But these are the small things that you know that you actually should do in your life in order to be greater and to get out of that jello. These are the things that you are afraid to do, but you know that they will help you eventually. The jello actually appeared due to the help of your parents, your friends, your education, your career. Getting out of the job that you've been into for 7 years, but you are not really happy about that, is also a huge bunch of jello. Thank you for comments. Our education, that is, but at least to move a little bit towards. the ending, or maybe to the top of the jar and to open the lid. If you want to eat those small round things, you have to become a Pac-Man. And once you decide to do that, there is one thing that will actually happen to you. You will start feeling tension, because you have just destroyed the harmony that you already had in your life. You didn't have the goal before, and you thought, oh, everything is perfect. But suddenly you start thinking, oh no, I feel something inside me that's not working. I feel strange, I feel lost. Of course, when I took my camera, he just ran away. But I saw my wolf. I saw the thing that I was so anticipated for 38 days. But to be true, this is not a wolf. This is Laika. And the thing that I was so afraid for more than a month appears to be a Laika. That just blew my mind off. I was constantly afraid of it, afraid of it, afraid of it. And just like in life, we are also afraid of stuff, and eventually you see that that was not that afraid. That was not that scary. That was not worth to be afraid of. And for me, that was the opening moment. And in life, when you meet your wolves, you understand that the jello, it also just melts, and it just runs out. And eventually you start going on your own, into your way. Not where the Pac-Man's track leads, or where the people want you to go. It's kind of a solitary way at first. It's a long road. It's a muddy road. And sometimes it's really hard to move. But you keep on moving, step by step, step by step. You will see more and more of those wolf tracks, but you know that if you keep on moving, you will see who is making them, and you will reach your goals. You might be planning that you will go during the daytime, or you will be during the nighttime. I've got you covered. But those plans that you make don't actually work in the real life. You can sit here and plan 5 years in the future, but everything can change with one new meeting, with one new person in your life. And then you start walking in the dark, or off-road, or somewhere else where you did not expect yourself to appear. Really life basics, when you start living your own life, the one that you really like, are redefined. You start making money from various new skills, and that's a little bit uncomfortable at first. You start making scratch ideas that always fail. But the fact that you are creating new ideas and working together with your co-mates helps you, well, get the water and be alive and keep that thing fueled, the one that's burning inside you. So, there he is again. If you find yourself stuck in the jello, and I think that we all do have that moment in life, or that perspective through which we go, and we find ourselves stuck.